let's just jump right into it. We're starting off with pastors' opinions on Halloween, and Raphael, I think you're gonna jump into this for us, right?
Yeah, let's dive in. So pretty much this survey was done by the Religion News Service and was the articles from the Religious News Service and the actual survey was performed by Lifeway Research. In this survey, they polled a thousand Protestant pastors, or only Protestant, no Catholics, no Muslims, no extra polytheist or anything else. And they asked them what their opinion on Halloween was. And they asked them as a very specific question of what do you encourage your church members to do at Halloween? So they asked them that question, then they gave them five possible answers. So answer one was invite friends, neighbors to church events on or near that day, such as fall festival, trunk or treat, judgment houses, etc. Option two involved building relationships with neighbors who trick or treat. I'm not sure what kind of relationships they're talking about here, but that was one of the answers they could uh, tick off on their box. Number three, hand out gospel tracts to trick or treaters. I'm sure they were really psyched to get those when they were trick or treating. Number four was avoid Halloween completely, and then some people had other ideas, so they could select none of these. So overall, 71% chose option one, where they have alternative events. 58% selected make relationships with people who trick or treat. 34% are going to hand out gospel tracts, so they're going to be egged and toilet papered by the end of the night. And then 13% said they're going to suggest to totally avoid Halloween, as well as 8% said none of these. If anyone understands how that adds up to 100%, how that the math there works, let me know. Um, so Kelly, got any ideas or comments on this?
Yeah, you know what? One of my first ideas you already mentioned, and that was the idea of giving out gospel tracts to trick or treaters. I just couldn't even believe that that would even be a suggestion. And the first thing that came into my mind was exactly the first thing that came into yours too. Was these kids? All you're doing is getting kids to go out and egg houses and TP lawn or houses or trees out in front, right? I can you imagine if one third of these Christians that listen to their ministers, the one third of ministers that were telling people to do this, kids would be really, really busy after dark on Halloween. I mean, I know I would have been back in my day. Me and my friends, we would have had a blast doing that, going after those people. So I I just can't believe that they would tell people to do that, that hand out Bible tracts. Or how do you just ignore Halloween? You know, I mean, there's a bunch of kids walking up and down the street. How do you just ignore it, right? I don't think it's a possibility. What do you think, Richard?
You know what? I was thrown off at the gospel tracks bit. I went and had a look up because I'm like this because I wanted to know exactly what these gospel tracks say, and I had a quick Google of gospel tracks, and the first, and I swear this is straight up what happened. The first one I found was called "The Touch of the Master's Hand." And I was just surprised at that point that no Catholics had been involved in any of this research. It was just, but this was interesting for me altogether because Halloween's not big in the UK really compared to the US. Christianity isn't big in the UK compared to the US. So I found this interesting, and you know what? I actually quite like that this survey was done. I think it's I think it's good that I think it's bad that they included no one but Protestants. But as far as it goes, the fact that they actually did this survey, I think will expose a lot of Christians to
Mm.
like a little bit of new thinking and new ideas because they're not coming in and a lot of these people only literally only get any information at all from their pastors and that they see the result of this and that there's such disagreement amongst pastors when it comes to Christianity, I think in itself will open a lot of people's eyes. Secular, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely I thought, if you're going the Bible tracks, why not just give out communion wafers at that point? I mean, for fuck's sake. But hey, whatever. Your call, man. I mean, that's a way to make a whole generation just hate the church. Like, oh my gosh, this one time of year we all get to get a bunch of candy and it's so awesome, and then they're just, like telling them no. And anyway, I never had this like trunk or treat thing when I was a Christian, and so that was always something that was really interesting to me. I know it happened, but it was never something that myself or my family was a part of. Raphael, I don't know if that was similar for you, or if that was different, and then please tell us more of your thoughts on this article.
Yeah, the trunk or treat is definitely something I've never run across
Mm.
until this article. And then as soon as I saw in this article, I started seeing it other places. So maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I actually wanted to ask Richard why he thought it was bad that they only looked at Protestants.
Hmm.
But I just think you get a wider picture if you've got a wider, because I think the idea of doing this is a good idea overall. And I think by limiting the people you ask, you limit the kind of responses you get, and you've not got as wide a selection.
Mhm.
You've not got a wider field of opinion to pull from. So I think overall it's a really good idea that these people are doing this. I think it's bad that they're not included. I'd like to see it religion wide personally, and get opinions from religious people or from theists. But that they're doing it is a good thing. I think people are going to be exposed to a lot of ideas that they've not been previously exposed to.
Hmm. Yeah.
See, I personally like that it was focused because I thought that let you, for their purpose of like really just looking at Protestants, because I assume the organization that did it was for like a Protestant organization.
It was a Baptist one, I believe it said in
Was
the
it?
article.
All right. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
same vein, I guess, on similar
They
levels.
count.
But anyways, they count. Yeah, they're people too. But I kind of liked it being focused because that for my purposes, I like it to be broad, but for the
Mm.
purposes of what they're doing and them putting this information out for their own sect of religion, which, they in theory should be pretty close together, you're going to see more of that difference between I think it's more of a light bulb. They cannot ignore the differences of theirs and just focus on like, oh, the Muslims, look at what the Muslims are doing. It's, oh wow, all these Protestant or like all these Pentecostals really hate Halloween or whatever. So for me, I liked that it was a more direct comparison, I guess was what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah. What
but
what what do you think, Kelley? Would you have preferred to see more of a broader swath of Christianity represented here? Were you happy about the focus of it? What did you think?
I would go a step further and like to see what other religions thought about it. What is a Jewish outlook on Halloween? What is a Hindu outlook on Halloween? Because they believe in demons too, like bad spirits too, right? Muslims have their genie, right? Why not talk to them about that all the kind of bad, malevolent spirits that in other religions? And as long as we're going to be having these evil spirits, every religion has them. Why couldn't we include them all? I don't understand how being scared is anti-Christian. Honestly, isn't the biblical God pretty damn scary? I mean, he scared me when I was going to Sunday school as a kid. Right? I just don't get it. I don't understand how like Frankenstein's monster is anti-Christian. I don't get it. I don't get how werewolves are anti-Christian. I don't get it. Right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And if you're going to be using that old Christian meme, using the word meme, and it's the old original sense, be in the world and not of the world, then why are they even worried about Halloween anyway? God's going to take care of that. They shouldn't even be worried about it, right? What do you think, Richard?
I think one thing that really stood out to me, talking about demons, and you're right, Kelly, they do have demons in all religions, even the traditionally non-theistic religions like Buddhism, there are demons in
Mhm.
there as well. So it is a wide and hell realms. So it is and in Hinduism, of course, as well. So there is a wide scope to get a much wider kind of feedback on this. One thing that did make me laugh about this when I was reading through the article was when it mentioned judgment houses or hell houses, which I'm still trying to figure out what they are. It seems like a haunted house for God. And, the
Mhm.
houses that they have, I don't know whether they set them up in the parking lots or they turned the church into them. I'm not sure, but they depict the horrors of hell. And I've never heard of these before. And to be honest, when I was a teenager, I was into Motley Crue and Slayer, and I would have absolutely loved to have gone and visited one of these hell houses. It wouldn't have convinced me that I was going to hell or that God was real, but it'd have been a really fucking good night out for me and my mates after a couple of beers. So I thought that was a really good idea. I'd love that. I'm all for the hell house.
Unfortunately, that's not what it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that
yeah.
does sound cool.
Yeah, your version sounds a lot better than what they are, I think. And
Way better.
I gotta say, one thing I was actually really happy with, I guess, was the fact that the smallest percentage of people surveyed was the one who said "Oh no, stay away from Halloween because demons and stuff." And I think that probably indicates a good trend that more and more people are stepping away from these unfounded beliefs in demons and ghosts and stuff. Our other articles may push back on my assertion there, but we'll get to them in a minute. But before we do,
Just
Raphael,
following on from that as well, I saw
yeah,
before we go,
yeah,
I think that raises another good point because in the article, it did say that a lot of these pastors were recommending that their congregation go out and
yeah,
speak to the neighbors
yeah,
and actually invite them to church or just speak to them on the street and share the gospel. And I think that's a good idea as well.
yeah.
Get them people talking to people they wouldn't otherwise talk to. When the kids are out on the street, all the children are there. It's a nice, friendly atmosphere. You can go and they can have these conversations, and that might be actually a good opportunity for street epistemology to be taking place. That's not a
Oh,
bad thing. There were some good ideas put forward in this article.
yeah, that's a
So,
very good
Raphael, do
point.
you want to wrap us up on this one?
I'll just comment briefly on the idea that things might be getting better that SR brought
Mhm.
up briefly. There is definitely, when you take a look at some of the raw data, you see that the pastors that are younger are way more open to all these things. They're more
Mm,
open to having their own events. They're more open to going out and building relationships. They're less open to the gospel tracts that people are going to burn down their house for, and less of them are going to just outright try to avoid Halloween, or tell their congregation to avoid Halloween altogether. So I think hopefully this is a good trend that we're going the right direction, and either at least people are becoming more aware that this is something important uh, to culture, and they're becoming more secular. So hopefully that is the trend we keep seeing. And that's all. I think we can just end it right there.
I think that's a great way for us to move on. I'm always a fan of ending on a high note. So